Right. السلام عليكم. اللهم يا رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Welcome to the Robotics Open House for the Robotics 2020-21 season. We're going to talk to you about how we're planning on doing robotics, different categories, application process, really all the new changes that we're planning on doing for this year. And we'll also go over the application process again. It's going to be a Google form. So to begin, we're going to go over the general information first. So to start off, talking about a little bit about FRC. This is the competition. This is the program that we are going to be involved in. Now, first is the organization, and the competition is FRC. Now, they offer 4 competitions in total. Again, the one we're focused on is FRC for high school. Now, the general gist of the competition is we spend some time building a robot, and that robot is meant to complete certain tasks. We don't know what those tasks are going to be. They release it at a specific time every year. And after they release all the information, the competition rules, we start building our robot. Now, during the actual competition, we're going to be paired up with 2 other teams, and we're going to be against 3 teams. So it's a 3v3 robot match. So it's not just about you building your own robot. There's also a strategic element to it as well. Now, as I said, the rules for the competition aren't released until January of that year. Now, because those competitions, the rules for the competition isn't released until January, that really basically creates 2 seasons to the entire year. So once they release the competition, that's when we start building. So in January, they release the competition, they start building, and we start building all the way up until the competition day, which is around March. So it gives us around 2 months. Before I go on, I just want to quickly mention, before I forget, if any of you have any questions, we're going to have a Q&A session at the very end. And if you are afraid that you're going to forget your question for whatever reason, feel free to type it in the chat, and we'll go and answer as many questions as we can at the end of the entire presentation. So going back to what I was saying, we have 2 seasons, basically the time before the competition is released and the time after the competition is released. Now, the time before the competition is released is what we call preseason. And preseason is where we're going to be spending all the time teaching you about your respective group, whatever you want to learn about, whether programming, hardware, media, fundraising, any of that stuff. That's what we're going to spend the preseason. That's you preparing for the build season. And the build season is just what it sounds. Build season is where we're actually involved in building the robot. We are trying to create, design, program, all of that for the robot to prepare for our competition. Now, the reason I bring this up is because throughout this entire presentation, we're going to be using the terms preseason and build season all the time. So I thought it was just worth getting that terminology out of the way, getting familiar with it. Now, robotics isn't just about building a robot. There's different categories. There's different aspects because it's a competition and not just building a robot. There are different aspects to it. And that's why we have these 5 categories. And we'll go over all of them in a little bit. Everyone will talk about a little bit of what each category does. So first off, we have hardware. Now, hardware is primarily responsible for the design, build, and electronics of the robot. All the physical aspects of the robot goes under hardware. Software is responsible for the programming and automation of the robot. That's all the configuring, anything that has to do with the computer, softwares, and programs. That's what software takes care of. Next, we have fundraising. Now, robotics isn't cheap. It needs financial backing in order for us to pay for competitions, materials, and all that different stuff. So fundraising is responsible for obtaining sponsors, doing fundraisers, basically getting the financial funds that we need to run robotics. Media is responsible for our social media representation of our team, our online presence. And then this one is a new one, research. It's one that we've added. And research is responsible for awards, rules, scouting, all that different stuff. Basically very competition-specific activities. So anything that really has to do with the competition specifically, that's what we've decided to put into this new category, research. Now, besides this new category that we added, the other major change that we had this year is the team club split. Now, as of now, we have a club and we have a team. Now, the club is a school-only activity. This is where you're learning about all the different stuff that you would need to create a robot, but is only within the school. It's not part of the competition. We're not doing this under the organization. We're doing this as a school event. And then the team the team members are the ones who are actually going to be attending the competition. So as of now, everyone is part of the club. Throughout preseason, as we teach you whatever category you wanted to do, near the end of preseason and the first semester, we're going to be selecting a few members from the club to be part of the team. Around 20 people are going to be selected for this team. And we're going to judge it based on dedication, attendance, how well you've improved, how well you contribute, all these different factors based on how valuable we deem that you will be to the team. So it's all about your dedication. Now, 20 people isn't like a quota that we have to meet, and it's not a cutoff point. It's very flexible. So if more people, we feel that having more than these 20 dedicated people, because let's say there's like 23, 22 dedicated people or even more, we can adjust those numbers. And if there's less dedicated people, we feel like reaching 20 is just going to be adding people that aren't really going to be contributing positively to the season. We can reduce that number to around 19, 18, maybe even lower if that's what we want. But around now, 20 is around that, it's around the point that we're aiming for. Now, after we select the team members, which is going to be based on how you've done throughout the preseason, after we select our team members, during the build season, the team is going to be primarily responsible for the robot. Their only concern is getting the robot done for competition. Now, because of that, there's obviously going to be added responsibilities to people on the team. Now, just because you don't make the team doesn't mean you should stop coming after build season. There's still going to be plenty of you to do, for you to do. For example, if the team members cannot focus their time on a certain thing that they wanted to develop because it's not really crucial to the robot, that's something that people on the club can do. And furthermore, people on the team can get kicked out if throughout build season, they are not contributing as much as they should be. If they are slacking off, not attending, stuff like that, they can be removed from the team and they can be replaced by someone on the club. So if someone on the club is more dedicated than someone on the team, they have the option to go into the team. So just not making it into the team from the get-go doesn't mean that you won't be able to work. You'll still be able to do plenty of things, and you'll even still have a chance to make it on the team if you show incredible dedication that we see will actually help move the team forward. Now, because of the current pandemic, there's obviously going to be changes from this year and other years. So the competition so far, FRC, this is the competition itself, it said that it was limiting the amount of people that can actually attend competition. So that means from these 20 people on the team, we're going to have to select only about 10 to go to the competition because of safety reasons with the pandemic. Now, for future years, inshallah, when this pandemic settles down, all 20 people are intended to go to competition. It's just this year's are slightly different circumstances. Furthermore, because we cannot be meeting in person that much, most of our meetings are going to be over Zoom, and we'll see if we can arrange some in-person meetings for obvious reasons like hardware and software. It's going to be a large portion of the preseason is going to be self-learning. So we're going to help you, we're going to guide you and teach you as much as we can. But if you really want to take that extra step to be a more valuable member to the team, you're going to have to take that step to research on your own, self-learn. And after we get all the application forms in, I will send an email to everyone who applied, giving you some links and resources for self-learning, resources that I use, other people use, very good resources that will help you go and learn on your own and become a more valuable person to the team if you want to become part of the team. So now that we've discussed the team club split, we have the application form. If you want, you can take a screenshot of this slide and type it into your browser, but I will be providing the link at the end of the presentation. Now, we communicate in the application, we ask for your email. Now we communicate primarily on Hangouts, and Hangouts does not work with school emails. So when you are filling out the Google form, do not put your school email, put your personal Gmail instead, because we primarily communicate on Hangouts. We're not going to be using Discord for any club or team announcements anymore. It's solely going to be on Hangouts. Now, if you as a category, let's say you decide to join media, if you and your media group decide that you want to do media-specific communication on a different platform like iMessage or WhatsApp, that's entirely up to you as your subgroup. But as for team and club announcement that goes out to the entirety of robotics, that's going to be on Hangout. So it's very important that you put in your personal email so that you're able to get these kind of messages. Now, I highly recommend before filling out this form, you listen to the rest of the presentation, which should take no more than 10-15 minutes. And just so you can get a general idea of what to expect from each one. Let's say you wanted to join media, but it turns out what you actually intended to do better fit into research. So I highly recommend that you watch the presentation, and at the end, I'll be posting the link in the chat. Now, last thing I want to mention is that if you want to become part of robotics, you're going to be representing robotics itself. You're going to be representing Unibots. And part of representing Unibots is following us on social medias. So far, we only have a YouTube and an Instagram. So if you want to be part of the club, you want to represent us, we require that you follow us on social medias, whichever ones that you have. The reason being is that you're part of the team, you want to represent us, give us those numbers, show that you are really dedicated to the team, and show that you're part of it as well. So following is one way you do that. And in the Google form, at the very top, we have the links to those social medias. And at the very bottom, we say, have you followed us on social media? Yes or no. So please follow us on our social medias as well. So now that we've talked about the general structure of robotics that we are planning going on forward, let's talk a little bit about what each of the 5 categories does. So to begin with, we'll start with research. Now, research, like I said, is the competitive aspect of robotics. So one part of it is scouting. Now, some of you may be already familiar with scouting, but scouting is basically researching other teams, both before and during the competition, to get an idea of how well they do, how have they been in the past, what's their general strategies. In the competition, you're going to keep track of points, caveats, things that they are good at, and things that they're not good at. That way, when you get paired up with these teams, or even get paired against them, you can you can use this information to form strategies that will help you be better in the competition. So scouting is very important. So scouting and media work very closely because scouting and media is about really communication. It's not just about researching, it's also about developing bonds with other teams, not just for competition purposes, but even out of competition, pre-seasons, build seasons. These are important bonds to develop. Now, obviously, you can't be scouting isn't something that's going to take up throughout the entire year. There is a lot you can do with scouting, but at some point, you are going to run out of things you can do for scouting until a further time. So that's why there are other things you can do in research as well. For example, FRC, the competition, has awards, and it releases a rule book, as I mentioned earlier. So when the competitions are released, it's around 150, maybe 200 pages. It's a PDF that details every single thing you need to know. From all the way building the robot, the game rules, the specifications, the competition day, how matches are going to be structured, everything. Now, it is very detailed, but there are times where confusions do arise. You get confused on what this specific rule means. Is this thing we are doing allowed or not? Is it part of the rules or not? So if you're part of research, part of it will be clearing up any of these confusions, contacting FRC themselves, asking them to clarify what they mean on these specific rules. These are things that you will be doing under research. And on top of that, we have awards. Now, awards we have are like Safety Animation Award, Digital Animation Awards. We have Woody Flowers Award. We have, I think they have an award for Team Spirit. They have an entire list of awards, which you can see the entire list by searching up FRC awards online. Now, awards do require preparation. It's not something that you can just apply for overnight. For example, like the animation awards. So as part of this group, you will be working on these preparing these awards for submissions. Now, last year we had actually a student, a member from the team. He decided to, on his own, at the beginning he didn't want to do the animation awards, but later on he decided he's going to give it a try. He went for the digital animation award, and after he submitted, out of a list of around 110, 120 submissions, top around 10, 15 got selected for as judges' favorites, and from those, one got selected to win. And he got selected as a judge's favorite, and he got an announcement and all of that. So there really is a lot you can do with these awards. So that's research that focus on the competitive aspect of robotics, mostly for the competition and all of that. Next up, we have hardware. And hardware is generally, hardware is all the physical aspects of robotics. Now, hardware can be split into three separate, subcategories: the design process, the actual physical building, and then the electronics, bringing your robot to life. So to begin with, we have our design process. Now, before when we were doing our design process, we were mostly just sketching it out on paper. And I don't know about you, but for me, my sketches aren't very good. They're very blocky. Sometimes it's hard to visualize, hard to understand. CAD is computer-aided design. It allows you to do 3D modeling, and it's not that difficult. There are some amazing CAD softwares that are very intuitive. We're not doing anything crazy complicated with crazy curves and crazy specifications. It's mainly to model and for designing. And on top of that, we have a 3D printer. If we need a part that we can't find, we can't buy, and we can't machine, then we can print it out with a 3D printer after designing on CAD. Now, there's a lot of computer-aided design softwares, a lot of CAD softwares out there. You have SolidWorks, Onshape, Fusion 360, Autodesk, all sorts of them. You can use whatever you want, really. It doesn't matter. But for the purposes of robotics, when we're teaching CAD, we're going to be using Fusion 360. And you don't have to buy Fusion 360, although you could if you wanted to. Instead, you can search up Fusion 360 for students, create an account, and it will give you a free license as long as you are a student. So if you want to go into hardware, I suggest downloading the software, getting maybe even a feel for it before we actually go into it. So computer-aided design is very important. It helps us, design, even when we're not physically there at robotics. You can do it at home. It basically gives you that kind of flexibility to build wherever you want without actually physically building. You want to check out an idea work, experiment, CAD is the software to use. And then the next aspect we have is the mechanical aspect. And I'm going to have Abdullah talk to you a little bit about the mechanical aspect.
Thanks, Nadeem. My name is Abdullah, and I'll be covering the mechanical aspect of building and what it entails in the club. So basically, mechanics deals with the overall blueprints and assembly of the robot. This sector of the club is responsible for the brunt of building the robot during the build season. Additionally, members in this faction will be taught how to use tools effectively and learn building skills that they'll get to utilize as the club engages learning by action. For example, they'll learn how to use tools such as drill presses and rivet guns. They'll also be taught taught about the different ways and techniques to assemble parts to create a functioning robot. With that being said, there are safety measures that must be taken so we can all ensure everybody's well-being. With that, even when an adult is present, safety goggles must be worn by all members at all times to make sure there are no mishaps. Members will also be taught proper safety procedures when using power tools such as drills, drill presses, and bandsaws, even with adult supervision. We want to promote fun as well as safety in the club, and that's going to be a team effort, inshallah.
So that is the mechanical aspect, all the building that's responsible for robotics. And then after we build the robot, after we have the skeleton for our robot, then we have our electrical aspect. That's all the motors, the batteries, the motor controllers, the sensors, anything that has to do with getting your robot up and running with power and giving it senses with sensors. That's all electrical aspect. Now, the three aspects, designing, building, and electrical aspect, we don't have enough numbers to split them up into entirely separate groups. As you join hardware, you will learn at least the basics of every single one. You'll learn how to do CAD, you will learn how to build, and you will learn about the electrical aspects. Now, if you decide you want to specialize more in electronics, like you want to go a lot more, you can. but at least you have the basics for, you at least know how to do all the other things. And that's going to make you a lot more useful. The more you know about different categories, the more you have to offer to the team. Now, despite the fact that electrical aspect is part of hardware, this is the surface that programmers are going to be primarily dealing with. When you're programming the robot with the motors and sensors, you're going to be referring to the electronics a lot. So even if you want to go into programming, I suggest highly that you learn at least the surface level of the electrical aspect. That way it will make your programming go a lot more smoothly. And again, the more you know, the more you're able to offer to the team. So that is the electrical aspect. So that's really all there is to the hardware. You have the design, the mechanical, and the electrical aspect. Next up is fundraising with Felak.
Salam everyone, I hope you're all doing well and staying safe. Today I'll be talking about the fundraising team. As Nadeem mentioned earlier, the goal, the main job of the fundraising team is to obtain sponsors and raise money so our team can build the robot and take part in the robotics competition. Nadeem, can you go to the next slide? Okay, so some tasks that you might have to do while in fundraising include finding and contacting potential sponsors, as well as participating in in-school fundraisers. So our main goal for this year is to find practical, interesting, and safe methods to raise money. Due to the circumstances we are in because of the pandemic, it'll be a challenge to raise funds. However, our team has come up with some potential ideas to fundraise for this year, such as focusing on getting more sponsors. We can contact local businesses to sponsor us financially or with tools and other equipment our team may need, as well as finding businesses that are willing to sponsor us with food that we can use later in the year when we do in-school fundraisers, inshallah, when things settle down. So you don't necessarily have to be a part of the fundraising team to provide suggestions for methods to fundraise or take part in our fundraisers. We are always looking for more ideas and opinions. So if you have any potential methods we can fundraise this year, just send an email or talk to one of the execs. And that's all for fundraising. Manal and Mariam are going to take it from here.
Hello guys, my name is Manal and I'm one of the representatives along with Mariam today for media. Basically the purpose of media is to represent the team as well as communicate the goals, aspirations of the team to the school community and potential sponsors, as well as our current sponsors. This year, our main goals are to develop a consistent way for Unibots to become well-known, create teaching tools for future generations, as well as implement learning opportunities for younger students, like FLL, like some of you guys have already been in, some of the freshmen. And additionally, to form long-lasting relationships with other robotics teams by offering a helping hand and insight with the hope that it will be reciprocated in the future if needed be. If you guys do choose to join the media committee, we will be teaching you guys how to edit pictures and videos if needed. Here's Mariam to let you guys know what the tasks are.
Hello, my name is Mariam. So I'm just going to be building off on what she said basically. So in the case of like media, we want to make our media team like so much more like involved this year. We want to document things. We want to make like kind of like a chronological documentary for like the FLL teams, because like Manal said, we want to work more closely with them, because when we were a rookie team, we didn't have a lot of information to fall back on. So we want to make it as informative as possible. So the transition from FLL to FRC is as smooth as possible, and we get to like teach the kids along the way. And yeah, so when she talked about skills, for instance, our YouTube videos, we're going to try and make those like weekly, inshallah. So you're going to learn how to make, you're going to learn how to edit videos. So you can like make really nice videos and put background music and stuff. And so they come out nicer overall. And for like other things you're going to learn in media, for instance, when Nadeem mentioned the awards that can be won, one of the categories is animation. So in media, we'd be teaching you how to use animation. An example of that could be us teaching you how to draw, how to do anatomy, how to like form animations, and what kind of platforms you can use that are cheap and free animations. For instance, Krita is a free drawing program, so we could teach you to do animation on that. And then for outreach, like Manal said, we are going to be talking to different teams and stuff. And we want to form like relationships with these people because a lot of the times when teams win, they pick teams that they're like associated with in advance to take them to like the semifinals. So earlier it was mentioned that media and scouting work really closely together. It's because like media deals with outreach and texting the teams, and we find them on other social media platforms. And while we work together, we scout the teams, learn information about them, like what they stand for and stuff. And we get to say what we stand for as well, because we're like one of the only Muslim teams in FRC. Like we have to get our message out there. And it's just really helpful overall for us to be interacting with these other teams, and it'll help us in the future if we need help or if they need help. And yeah, so thank you.
My name is Aman, and I'll be talking about my personal favorite branch of robotics, software. So basically, the main goals of the year is to program the robot in an organized fashion, and the language we'll be using is Java, to teach both the inexperienced and experienced in Java to be proficient in FRC-related programming. So basically, there won't be enough time to teach all of like every single concept in Java, so I'll be trying to focus on the most relevant parts to what we're going to be needing to use for a robot, to inspire a new generation of confident programmers for the team. So our numbers in the software sub-team are slowly dwindling with every passing year, and we need to have like people who are passionate about programming to carry on the to carry on the progression basically. And a lot of people kind of dismiss programming as something that's not really fun, something that's boring, tedious. Well, in reality, it actually takes a lot of creativity and problem-solving skills. Even if that creativity is not tangible as hardware and media, there is still a lot of fun you can have with programming. The next point is to work together in creating an efficient and communicative software team. So basically what this means is we want to basically emphasize on the fact that we are a team and that we do work together. And if you're ever stuck on a problem, you can always reach out to someone else to help you along the way. Next slide. So a little heads up, since we will not be in person for the most part during the preseason, you might want to download specific things to practice. So as Nadeem mentioned previously, if you want to get ahead of the game, if you want to strengthen your skills and teach yourself a bit more, you can get ahead and download a couple things, such as Visual Studio Code, which is the IDE we use, the API library for the Java that we use for robotics, and other things like that. But all of that I'll guide you through when we first start our meetings during the preseason. So quick overview, programming focuses on controlling the robot using software and code. This is straightforward. We just program the robot to do specific things. Specific people are assigned specific things to focus on, such as autonomous or wheels or any arms we have. Different people are different different things to work on are allocated to different people. So it's divided like that. Programmers are also responsible for loading the software on the robot. So this means deploying the code. So you'll be kind of working with the control panel sometimes, configuring the controls. So this means like if we have any issues with the modem or the RoboRio, we're going to have to work on that. And setting up the communications between the robot and the driver. This all is not as scary as it seems. It may all seem overwhelming and intimidating, but once you get warmed up to it, you'll quickly understand it. So preseason, the inexperienced in Java will be taught how to program specifically towards FRC. Again, I don't have enough time to teach every single person everything that has to do with Java, so we'll be focusing on mainly the things that we need, such as importing methods, creating objects, and basically like the simple stuff. We don't need anything like polymorphism and all that. That's not necessary. So meanwhile, the experience in Java will be given a quick overview of like what they need to know for the actual build season. And after that is done, they will go to their second sub-team options. So after they finish learning the FRC Java, and after they finish learning how to configure the different things, they will be sent to do their second team option, which would be either media or hardware, whatever they choose, basically, because we want to focus our attention on the people who are basically starting fresh with programming. So we will have a couple meetings a week on Zoom in order to be able to teach everyone everything necessary in a short amount of time. So the next thing is driving. Driving consists of exactly that. You drive the robot. Every year differs with what joysticks we use, so you're going to need to practice driving before the competition. Towards the end of the build season, we have a mini contest to see who is like the best at controlling the robot, to see who will be our main driver at the actual competition. And I put a picture of what your drive base looks like when you're actually like behind the wheel. So you will need to become familiar with the control panel more in depth than a programmer would need to. So you're going to actually have to understand what everything means and how to use everything. So at the bottom left, I put a picture of what that looks like. Driving becomes more crucial towards the end of build season and during competition season, meaning when we're not actually like at the actual competition, you need to be part of another group. Driving it's not its own group, it's just another element to the competition that is not something that you need throughout the year. So you're going to need to join something else. That's it.
All right, so that was the overview of all the different categories. Now that you have a general idea of basically what each category does, I'm going to be posting the link to the Google form in the chat. The deadline for this is tomorrow, 11:59, Sunday, 11:59 p.m. Anyone who wants to join, go through the link. This entire session is going to be posted on YouTube. So if you see anyone who has missed this, who would like to go and see the recording, send them right over to the YouTube channel, and the link will be in the description for that YouTube channel. Again, please make sure that you also follow us on our social medias. Yeah, now we're going to be going to our Q&A. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat. And Ziad, would you like to take it over?
Okay, so Mr. Freed asks, when does preseason start and are ninth graders allowed to join the team?
So preseason starts technically from now. It's all the way now until the end of first semester. That's what we consider preseason. And ninth graders, yeah, they're allowed on the club. And if they show, again, dedication, they show that they are going to be very useful, they can be part of the team as well. All of high school has an equal opportunity to be both part of the club and the team. It's all going to be, it all depends on the person themselves, how much effort they're willing to put in.
Okay, moving on to the next question. Mr. Freed asks, is there a cost involved with joining the team, and do awards have deadlines and start times?
So yes, there will be a cost. Like I said, robotics does require financial support in order to keep it up and running, to pay for competitions and all materials and whatnot. So yeah, there will be a cost involved that will be further specified after the application, after we have another meeting. After you submit your Google form, we'll have another meeting with all the team members and explain everything in further detail. As for the awards, yes, awards do have deadlines. They do have start times as well. Usually awards such as the Safety Animation Award and the Digital Animation Award start rather early. So if you go on FRC, it might already be, it might have already started. They might have already posted the rules for them. This is all stuff that you can look up on FRC, but deadlines, absolutely. Almost all awards have deadlines.
Okay, Mr. Freed also asks, do we have videos describing the procedures to build the robot?
Well, building the robot is a very creative process. It's different from year to year, but we do have some videos on our YouTube channel for like the control system. There's some programming videos up there, configuring line lights. We have a few videos up there that it's another resource for you to go and to learn on your own. So yeah, we have a few resources on our YouTube channels, and there are many other YouTube channels out there from other teams as well that have resources as well.
Okay, this is a question for programming. Mr. Freed also asks, Are programmers only using Java, and will there be time to practice driving before we choose a driver?
Okay, so for the actual robot, we will be using Java, but I think for the Limelight and Pixicam, those are new additions that we're going to be working on this year. I think those use Python, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll try and see how I'm going to divide it with teaching who what, but for the most part, it is Java. And for driving, you can basically practice whenever we're testing something out. But before the contest, you can practice whenever you want, basically. We always need someone there to drive it, to test out a code or to test out new hardware that we added.
Okay, another question from question for programming. Wissam Hishma asks, where is the code saved, and is it accessible from anywhere to all programmers in the club?
So this year, when we try something new, we're going to try to save everything both on the school computers and the hard drive, but also we're going to have every single code that you make in the day posted on a Google document under your name and what it's for, just so that anyone can access it whenever, everyone can leave comments on it, whatever. And just in case one of the computers doesn't work or if the hard drive breaks, we have another backup. So we're going to try being a lot more organized with that this year.
Okay, in reference to social media, Mr. Freed asks if you could post the link for different social media, and I think she posted it right underneath in the chat. Moving on to the next question. Mehdi Zur, an upcoming freshman, asks again, will freshmen be able to join?
Yeah, freshmen are able to join. We're not excluding anyone from joining the robotics club or the team.
Okay. Next question. How is it going to work when you're staying home? And I assume this is basically focused on the meeting times and how we're gonna join up every week.
So for most of the things are going to be taught over Zoom. Programming, a lot of it is over Zoom. Media, a lot of it can be done over Zoom. Same with fundraising, research. Hardware, that's a little trickier. CAD can be taught over Zoom, the design process. When it comes to teaching the electronics and the hardware, we can go over through Zoom for some stuff, but especially for hardware, you do need to meet. And that's something that it still hasn't been decided exactly how it's going to be done. But as the year progresses, inshallah, we're going to get everything that we can do on Zoom out of the way first. So, and towards the end, we're going to figure out how we can split people up into manageable groups so they can come in person and actual experience. And even with software, you do eventually need to come in person to test the robot itself. So majority of it is going to be at home over Zoom with you and your medias, approximately once a week, maybe if you need to, because you need to meet more often for whatever reason, you might do twice a week. That's something you'll decide with your group. And then we'll find out how we're going to do it in person when the time comes.
Okay, Mr. Freed asks regarding software, is there a protocol for adding to Java files?
So usually when someone writes a program, we write like the name of the person who wrote it and the date. And if you want to add to it, I'm pretty sure it would just be like documenting what you added and when and who did it. So we'll figure out a system when the time comes, but it won't be complicated.
Okay, moving on to the next question regarding fundraising. Mr. Freed asks, is fundraising doing preseason and build season?
Yeah, so due to the circumstances that we're in, it's going to be kind of hard to do in-school fundraisers during the preseason. So we might move, like fundraising might go on to build season, but that's not confirmed yet. So.
And I'd just like to add on that for a lot of these categories on the Google form, you have your first option and your second option. First option is what you're primarily going to be responsible for, but there is the second option as well. And the second option is like whenever you're unable to do your first option, you can move down to your second option. So for example, fundraiser. During build season, if fundraising for whatever reason doesn't have anything to do, you're going to drop down to whatever your second option was. Same for research. If for research, your first option for whatever reason, you don't have anything to do, you're going to drop down to your second option, and that's what you're going to be focused on. So your first and second options are the most important things that you put on your Google form.
Okay, I think that's all for questions. Oh, no, never mind. Not all. Mr. Fried asks regarding media. Media, I think he's asking about videos, and he's asking, do we have to make videos?
I'm sorry. I was trying to get that in before he said no more questions. But the media, do you all have like the materials and things that you all need to do the videos and everything else, or do people have to bring their own stuff? Are you doing it on phones? Do we have cameras or what?
So I think because we're in a pandemic right now, I feel like if everybody used their own phone, but in the horizontal like thing, so it's easier to edit videos, I think that's what we're gonna do, so there's less chance of contamination. And honestly, like phone camera quality is pretty fine as it is, and anything else can be found online and able to download on Windows or Apple. So we're gonna find like compatible stuff that works with everybody's computer, so we can work at home by ourselves and be as safe as possible, inshallah.
Something else I want to mention is that these pictures and videos and all of that are usually posted on a Google Photos online, so everyone has access to them. So it's not stored on like one central hard drive, it's all up on the cloud.
All right. And can I add one more thing before we end? We do have shirts, hoodies and shirts, long sleeve shirts, I think short sleeve shirts too. We're going to keep the same logo and everything from here until on. So if you want any of that info stuff, Falak, I need to work with you and figure out a way to do it.
Okay, inshallah.
All right, if are there any more questions? Feel free.
Mr. Rifai said that they're ready in the lab if anybody needs them.
Right.
The shirts and the hoodies and stuff.
Yeah, I have the box in my computer lab.
All right, are there any more questions? Feel free to unmute or type it in the chat. All right, so I think that is it. Thank you all for attending. Again, if you know someone that isn't here or didn't get to attend either of the meetings yesterday or today, we will be posting this video on the YouTube channel, simply under the name Unibots. Tell them to go check it out. The link for the Google form will be in the description of that video. Thank you all for attending, and we'll finish off with Surah Al-Asr. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Thank you all for attending. Have a good day.